Welcome to statistics. In this lesson, we're going to be learning about some concepts related to statistics. Here we have some vocabulary words we're going to be learning about in this lesson. Population, census, sample, random sample, bias sample, statistic, and parameter. So surveys are often conducted to gather data about a population. A population is the entire group of people or objects that you want information about. In your notes, you already have that written in. A census is a survey of an entire population. Next to population, I'd like you to write the word census and its definition, a survey of an entire population. When it's too difficult, expensive, or time-consuming to conduct a census, a sample or part of the population is surveyed. So next to sample, write in part of the population. So the government, for instance, conducts a census every 10 years. And that's where they go out and they get information on everybody who lives in the country. So that way they have information about how many people live in different cities, what kind of resources people need, so they can better meet the needs of the citizens. And so they do that every 10 years. And they make a great effort to get information on everybody. So people that mail it in, people that don't mail it in, they go looking for them because they want to have an accurate representation. They want to know, where people live, how many people live in different areas, and what kind of resources that area is going to need. Right, but continuing on, when every member of a population has an equal chance of being selected for a sample, the sample is called a random sample. So in your notes is that vocabulary word, fill in the definition. Random samples are most likely to be representative of a population and are preferred over non-random samples, such as convenience samples and self-selected samples. So samples that are, and by the way, write in the word representative next to random sample. You want your sample to represent your population. Otherwise, the information that you get is not very accurate, and it's not. It doesn't provide you any new information. Right? It's not accurate. Non-random samples include samples such as convenience samples and self-selected samples. Right? So with a convenience sample, it's the people around you. It's people that are easy to ask. People that are all in the same area, and that wouldn't be a random sample, right? Because every member of the population wouldn't have an equal chance of being selected. A self-selected sample are people that choose to perhaps call in. They have to make the contact, and people in self-selected samples tend to be those who feel very strongly about some question or some concern. People that don't feel that strongly, they don't tend to make that effort. So again, that's not going to be a random sample. Everyone doesn't have an equal chance. It's just those who, convenience sample, those who are around you, or self-selected sample, those who just happen to call in. And that wouldn't be random. We want good, accurate information, and so we want random samples. A non-random sample can result in a biased sample. Right? So in your notes, fill in a biased sample is a sample that may not be representative of a population. In a biased sample, the population can be underrepresented or overrepresented. So in your notes, an underrepresented population, one or more of the parts of a population are left out when choosing the sample. Right? So if I want to get information on high school students at Vail Academy and High School, and I forget to ask the seniors, or I only ask a couple seniors. Right? Well, that would be the seniors would be underrepresented. What if I only ask seniors, or most of my group in my sample is seniors? Well, then seniors would be overrepresented, and a greater emphasis is placed on one or more of the parts of a population when choosing the sample. You want your sample to reflect the population. So if your population is 25% seniors, for instance, you want your sample to be 25% seniors. So random samples are less likely to be biased, while non-random samples are more likely to be biased. Bias in a sample is not always obvious at first glance. In your notes, I want you to write in these two vocabulary words. I have parameter listed, and next to it, I want you to write in a number that describes a population. Statistic is also listed in your notes, and I want you to write in the definition, a number that describes a sample. So when you're doing statistics, you're getting information, calculating numbers that describe your sample. And you can use a statistic from a survey to estimate a parameter. Okay? So next to statistic, also add in, use it to estimate a parameter. Okay? So write in the underlined parts in the correct location. So, the blue next to statistic and the red next to parameter. A researcher is gathering information on the gender of prairie dogs at a wildlife preserve. The researcher samples the population by catching 10 animals at a time, recording their genders, and releasing them. How can he use this data to estimate the ratio of males to females in the population? So the researcher can total the number of males and females and prairie dogs. I didn't take the time to write prairie dogs in the sample. And you want to calculate the ratio because he was interested in the ratio. Calculate the ratio. It's a T. And use this statistic to estimate the ratio, trying to write fast, of males to females, so you're not waiting for me, in the population. And so that's the uses of statistics. It's important to know how many different males and females, because if you don't have many females, your population growth is going to go down. So maybe this is what if this is a endangered species? You definitely want to know how many females there are. All right, so for instance here, if he adds these up, he's got 24 males and 8 and 8, 16 females. All right, so that's a ratio 24 males, I'll put 24M, to 16 females. So the population, and we can reduce that ratio. We would expect 3 males to 2 females. Right? Because 24 to 16 would reduce from 3 to 2. Right? So if this is the numbers he's getting in the sample, we'd expect that in the population, for every 3 males, there was 2 females. So we have a few more males than females in our population of prairie dogs. So identify the population in the sample. A car factory just manufactured a load of 6,000 cars. The quality control team randomly chooses 60 cars and tests the air conditioners. They discover that 2 of the air conditioners do not work. Right, so our population is the 6,000 cars that they made. The sample is the 60 cars that were tested. Okay. So by the way, if they found that 2 of the air conditioners don't work, the probability, just to kind of review probability, of not working no working AC, would be 2 defective ones to 60 in the sample, or 1 out of 30. So this is an example of experimental probability. So just a little review there for probability. Right, so the population is all the cars, the sample is just the ones they tested. Okay, we're going to decide whether each sampling method could result in a biased sample. Right, so you think of the answer and then I'll show you the answer. A survey of a city's residents is conducted by asking 20 randomly selected people at a grocery store whether the city should impose a beverage tax. What do you think? Is that random or not random? Right, so you decide, and then I'm going to tell you. If you need more time, you can pause the tape. And the answer is, so residents who do not shop at the store are underrepresented, so the sample is biased. Right? Because different people shop at different stores. You're only going to be asking the people that shop at one store. So this was a biased sample. This actually would be a convenience sample. They just happen to be at that store. A survey of students at a school is conducted by asking 30 randomly selected students in an all-school assembly whether they walk, drive, or take the bus to school. What do you think? Is this a random sample or not? What's your vote? Survey says no group was underrepresented or overrepresented. The sample is not likely to be biased. Right? So this is a random sample, not biased, right? Because they selected, it was about the students in the school, right? So you're only going to ask students in the school, and they randomly selected them, and everybody had an equal chance because it was an all-school assembly. It wasn't just an assembly with high school students or sophomores, it was the whole school. How about the next one? Decide whether the sampling method could result in a biased sample. An online news site asks readers to take a brief survey about whether they subscribe to a daily newspaper. Biased or not biased? Survey says bias. All right, so people visiting a news site online are more likely to be interested in news and subscribe to a daily newspaper. All right, so this was a biased sample, right? Because you're going to overrepresent those who are interested in the news, right? Because if you're not interested in the news, you're probably not going to be reading the online news site either. Right, so a car dealer wants to know what percentage of the population in the area is planning to buy a car in the next year. The dealer surveys the next 15 people who come into the car lot. Are the results of the survey likely to be representative of the population? So in other words, is this an unbiased sample? It's representative? Or is this a biased sample? Some group is over or underrepresented. Right? Decide, is it biased or not? And the answer is, this is a convenience sample. Right? It was just the next 15 people who came into the car lot. How hard was that? Which is not likely to be representative of the population. People who come to a car lot are more likely to be planning to buy a car. You wouldn't go to a car lot if you had no interest in buying a car, right? Just decide to hang out at the car lot. Right? Biased or not biased, or representative? Biased, not representative, or unbiased, representative. What do you think? A restaurant owner wants to know how often families in his area go out for dinner. He surveys 25 families who eat at his restaurant on a Tuesday night. Are his results likely to be representative of the population? Is this a good sample, or is this a biased sample? What do you think? All right, got your answer? Survey says it's biased. People in a restaurant on a Tuesday night are much more likely to eat out often. Tuesday is not a common day people tend to eat out, And it's also kind of, I think, a convenient sample because they were just the families who ate at his restaurant. So that's a Tuesday night. I think I'll just ask these people. So that was a bias sample. All right, so I'm going to stop here and we'll look at study types on the next podcast. Thanks for watching.